All right, we're going to do as many questions in about 60 seconds as we can. Let's start with the first one. In 1 to 2 sentences, who are you?
Yeah, my name is Nayan, and I'm a freelance email copywriter for Stories and Copy and owner of the Nomad Newsletter.
Awesome. And how do you make money online?
I make money online through writing email copy for e-commerce businesses and coaches, as well as the ways I monetize the Nomad. So a little bit of affiliate marketing, a little consulting, and just a little bit of everything.
Nice. And what's your favorite thing about digital nomading?
Just the freedom. I love traveling. I love, every month or two when I go to a new place, it's a new experience. It's just adventure, man. That's what it's all about.
And where are you now? And what are your 2 to 3 favorite cities in the world?
Right now, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, which is very different from my 2 to 3 favorite cities in the world. So my favorite cities are Budapest, Hungary, Lisbon, Portugal, and Nausa, Greece.
What was that last one?
I'm probably saying it wrong.
Nausa.
Cool.
I'll take it though. And best concise advice for aspiring digital nomads.
Oh, research. Just research everything. Research how to make money, research locations, research the Airbnb that you're staying at or the people you're staying with, co-living spaces. The more research you do, the less stress you're going to deal with and really the happier you're going to be.
What small change has made a big difference in your life?
Networking, speaking and hanging out with other successful freelance writers and digital nomads has really made the biggest impact in my life, not just in work and digital nomading, but in my health, in my mindset, and all of the above.
And what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is Just Kid by Patti Smith.
And last question is, if you had 20 seconds to live, what message would you share with the world?
Oh man, I have no idea. I think probably find out what you really want and just go for it and take it one step at a time. I think just take everything one step at a time would be the main message.
Cool. I like a bunch of the things that you said. I think the research thing that you mentioned is a really good point, just as far as I think not for digital nomading, only for digital nomading, but researching and spending a lot of extra time to master your craft, to understand the path that you're going on is, I don't know if I want to say it's underrated, but I kind of do think it's underrated. I think that if you want to have a lot of success in any area of life, just spending more time and thinking about it more and going deeper is a major, major key. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as a copywriter, we kind of are forced to do a bunch of research, and everyone always says if you do enough research and good quality research, then 80% of the copy is already done. And in doing so, you save a lot of time because it's pretty much written itself already. And similar to nomading and work in general, it's when you do research, it's you already have all the answers and you're prepared. So when you go into a new town or a new city or whatever, and you're oh, where do I go eat, or what are the best neighborhoods, or where do I get to meet people? Instead of asking questions there and kind of wasting a day trying to figure things out, you do it beforehand. You already have the answers. You're oh, hey, this is a really good place to have lunch, or this is a really good place to have work and meet people, or they have good internet. I think just research is the most important thing.
Love it. Well, tell me a bit about your digital nomad journey. How did you get started? Why did you get started? And paint the broad picture for anyone listening as far as the journey that you've been on from a digital nomad perspective.
Yeah, so I would say I started my digital nomad journey about 2022 now. So only about 4.5 years ago. I think about 5 years ago I was still working in a school, in a kindergarten in Budapest. Before I was a digital nomad, I was still considered a traveler and an expat. I moved to Europe in 2015 to teach English in Barcelona, and then had the whole goal of doing 5 years in 5 different countries. And Hungary was just next one on the list. It was my next opportunity. And then I just realized I didn't really like it. I didn't really like teaching. So I was I still want to travel. I still want to, do all this and have adventures and, meet people from all over the world and things. And so I did what I think everybody, a few years ago did. It's still relevant now, and everyone, the content's everywhere. But I just researched how to make money online, how to make money from a laptop. This whole laptop lifestyle thing was still in its infancy. I discovered a whole bunch of skills that people were doing, whether that was SEO, Amazon FBA, e-commerce, drop shipping and all this stuff. I fell upon copywriting. And originally I was just a content writer. I didn't know what copywriting was. I thought it was just what lawyers did. And then I think by chance, I ran into a digital nomad. I don't think he called himself that at that time, but he was this 20-year-old guy from Germany that I met at a bar at a meeting point in Budapest. And I was like, what do you do? He says, I write copy. I had no clue what that was, but I thought it was great because he was 20 years old. English was his second language, and he just said he writes for a living. And he was in Budapest for 5 weeks. Was going to go to Vienna for 4, and then go to like Asia or someplace afterwards. And I just thought it was really cool. And his name was Finn Lobson. I've actually mentioned him in like almost every podcast that asked me about like my background story.
Cool.
But that was it. And yeah, Finn, if you're listening, I know he listens to it sometimes. He replies back to my emails. He's like, thanks for the shout out. It's like, 22nd one in a row. But that's how it started. And I had, he sent me a bunch of resources and fell in love with it. It took me a while to really get like a stable income, but after 6 months to about a year, I was able to make enough money where I felt really comfortable to, and yeah, it was a really hard grind. I definitely made sacrifices. It was definitely like penny pinching and just eating like 2 or 3 eggs a day. I lost a bunch of weight because I was like, I'm just going to make it. I was like, in my head, I was like, if I kind of burn all the bridges and like starve myself, I'm going to force myself to make it work. And ultimately I did. I was able to sign on some retainer clients. Yeah, now it's similar to what I do now. I niched down, became a e-commerce email copywriter, and now I run the Nomad Newsletter. So it's kind of everything I like doing to get
great
like
newsletter. I'll shout the nomadnewsletter.com. Very relevant to this podcast. It's great. I highly recommend. Go subscribe if you're listening.
Yeah, thank you. And like that's how it all, that's how it was. So just been writing emails, and now with the Nomad, it's combining everything I like, which is digital nomading, travel, remote work, and I'm still writing email, it's all really fun. Perfect for me.
And so you said it took 6 to 12 months to turn it into. Did you say it was 6 to 12 months before you started traveling, or 6 to 12 months before it was like a solid income?
Yeah, I would say 6 to 12 months before it was a solid income. I mean, I think I took a few small trips, I think to Vienna and to like Slovenia, I think, but it was really like, I was like with friends, and I was still working on my laptop. So technically I was nomading, but it wasn't comfortable by any means. And I wasn't really doing like the co-working spaces and really diving into the community, because, I think digital nomading now is like such a hit. Everyone knows about it. You have YouTubers who were just, productivity guys like 2 or 3 years ago. Now they're like, I'm a digital nomad. So yeah, it took me about 6 to 12 months to really have like a stable income.
And so now you spend most of the year in Budapest, right? And then you travel a little bit out of the year and you kind of have like a home base, and then do sporadic shorter trips other places. Is that your general travel style?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love Budapest. I fell in love with the place, but one of the reasons why I fell in love with it was that it was just so easy to travel, and it was so cheap to live there, and it's really easy to go to neighboring countries. You have like Austria there, Slovenia, Slovakia, Croatia's over there as well. So there's like a whole lot of beautiful places just to visit, and a lot of like the non-typical nomad kind of destinations, and the kind of like hole in the walls, which is what I really loved about Budapest, because everyone nowadays is like, I went to Budapest and all these things. 5-6 years ago, it was still this kind of like a hidden gem almost. But yeah, I mean, my whole like travel style is being based in Budapest, and then taking trips at least a month long. I don't really do fast travel, but slow travel is the way to go, and kind of plan it out in advance. And after the trip, after the month or 2 or 5, in this case from when I was in Mexico earlier this year, I take a little break and then I hit it again.
Nice. Well, I want to go deep on copywriting and freelancing. From a personal curiosity perspective, as someone who hasn't built a freelancing business and has not gone that deep in the copywriting realm, I would love to kind of be the curious one here for any listener who's interested in becoming a freelancer or a copywriter, and try to just absorb some of your knowledge and wisdom. So I guess I'd start with it sounds like, because when I started my digital nomad journey, I was, I guess, similar to you. I was coming from a place where I didn't like what I was doing. I was an employee. I didn't like that. And I needed to figure out how to make money. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I explored and read and researched a lot of different things. Copywriting was not something I came across. So it's interesting that I was going to ask you, how did you come up with the idea to become a copywriter? But you already answered it, where you spontaneously ran into someone. For someone who's not going to run into someone at a bar, how would you recommend that they kind of immerse themselves and learn with copywriting? Are there some key resources, books, podcasts that you would definitely recommend to people?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think this is around 2017. So the e-commerce dropshipping boom kind of like came upon like the online business world. And a lot of them were just people making these stores and things like this. So, they didn't know how to write emails. They didn't know how to write copy. So I think that's when the idea of like copywriting being like very sustainable for really anyone, because people have been writing copy forever, of course, but having it being like an online business and being as a freelancer and having it being really attainable, I think that's really new. So, and because of that boom and all the new gurus and experts out, there's so many resources out there. I think it'd be really wise to kind of have a blend between the old resources and the new resources. So the old resources are really great. So things like books by Joe Sugarman, Dan Kennedy, John Carlton, those are really, those are the Michael Jordans of copywriting, the real OGs who really found the foundations, created the foundations for really awesome copy. But, nowadays, as people say, it's like, if you just go on YouTube and you search the word, how to write copy or what is a copywriter, all of the free resources that are on YouTube are just as good as any of the $1,000, $2,000 courses. And that's not to, discredit any of the ones who have those super expensive courses. Those are really great when it comes to like understanding, I guess, the deeper parts of certain types of copy, like, long form sales pages or email marketing or how to write YouTube ad scripts and things like this. But if you're completely new to copywriting and it's like, oh, hey, Francis sounds cool. He wants, I want to learn how to write copy and use that as my digital nomad freelance business, just go to YouTube. You're going to find everything you need to know about the basics. And that's essentially, really all you need is like the basics at first. Once you get that foundation, then after that, it's all about saying yes and saying yes to new opportunities, different opportunities to see what kind of copy you like. And that's something that I learned from an awesome resource, which is the Copywriter Club with Rob Marsh and Kira Hug. They were like my first freelance business mentors, and they're a very like beginner friendly platform and company that that helps newbie aspiring copywriters take it to the next level. But then they also help experienced copywriters not just trade their time for money, but also create products. So I definitely would say if you're new, check out Rob and Kira at the Copywriter Club. I think they're fantastic. And they also have like an amazing podcast, helps anyone who is just new to copy or to anyone who wants to create their own product or create their own offer, but still kind of be known as a writer or, kind of transition to something else, which is, something that I've done. And, they've inspired me to do so. I would say in a nutshell, read the classic books by Dan Kennedy, John Carlton, and then also just go to YouTube, watch videos, and, get a lot of great research from them.
That's very helpful. So I feel like you painted a very clear picture of, if I were going to go deep on this, I'm going to spend a week or a couple weeks or however much time and read these books, go through YouTube, Copywriting Club. After, let's say, getting the foundational stage of having a baseline level of knowledge where you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, pick up a first couple of clients, start building out my portfolio. Like maybe I've written some dummy pages on my own and I've practiced. How do you go from zero and with a little bit of skills, now I have clients, even, I guess there's probably different phases. There's getting your first, test clients, and then there's getting like steady retainer clients. What was your process to get off the ground, and what would you recommend to someone else who's trying to do it now?
Yeah. I mean, I think the formula to, going from zero to your first $1,000, just two things. It's like persistence and patience. It's one of those, getting clients nowadays is super it can be super easy because there's so many platforms. You have Fiverr, you have Upwork, you have pay per hour. You can go on Facebook groups. You can put it on your Instagram, say that you're looking for clients. You can go on LinkedIn, and if you incorporate all of those things together, you will eventually find a client. But it's not, you can't expect it. You can't expect to have a top quality, like high paying client like right from the get go. Don't get me wrong, people do get that. I was lucky enough to kind of have that within my first 6 months, but the main thing is to keep at it every day.
But first 6 months, I mean, obviously it didn't happen overnight. I mean, that statement right there shows that you're living out the persistence and patience kind of slogan you just put out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, a lot of that is just like when you start getting in front of clients, the people who want copy written for them, they may not be the highest paying client, or they may not be some 6-7 figure business, 8-figure business or something, but you got to say yes to that because it's an opportunity. So it's reference experience. And then it's also a chance for you to really have something on your portfolio. I remember in my first 3 months, I think I only had like 2 clients, man. It was like really bad. And I was like, these are like, I was making only like, I think I only made like $60 my first like 2 months. But then everything I wrote, I kept in my portfolio, no matter how bad it was or anything. So, after a month or two, I would have 3-4 emails and maybe a couple blog posts and maybe 1 website. Maybe. I think I'm even stretching that. I think I might have just had a couple emails. But because I had those like 5 or 6 emails, the next time somebody wanted email copy, I was like, hey, I have samples actually sent to a list. And 5 or 6 of them, you can just check it out. And clients don't want to, this isn't, Mad Men where you come in with a big scrapbook of copy and they look through every one. They're busy business owners. So they just want to see a handful of copy, and if you have, stats that show that your copy converted in some way, super powerful. But if you don't have that, if you can like bulk up and like just save everything you wrote and have that in like a Google Drive and then send that over to them, that's gonna up your chances tenfold. And that's what I did. I only had like a handful of copy samples and shared it with everyone I could, and they were like, hey, this is great, like have another one, let's do a project together. And then when I was done with that project, I kept that. So instead of just 5 samples, I now have 7. And so it all just kind of compounds. So I would say that to anyone. So anytime you have an opportunity to write, do the project, do it really well, keep the work that you did, and ask if it generated any type of statistic that you could use. And I know some people that I've given this advice to, and they went from $0 to $3,000 within like 2 months because they just kept their 3 emails they had, and they were able to land like a solid client.
That makes sense. I mean, both the keep your portfolio and try to track meaningful metrics, because when I can say from a business owner side of things, when I'm thinking about hiring people, obviously I want to see their portfolio and does their work fit into what I'm hoping for? Like, does this stylistically match? Do I like what they're doing? And then on the metric side, especially with something that's, direct response or conversion driven, understanding, does this person write copy that converts, is going to make my decision a lot easier. So it feels like very simple advice, but it's good. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are not following that. So I'm taking mental notes. I like that. I want to talk about niching. So it seems like you have both really niched down and done really well with your niche, where it seems like your freelancing business is going well. At what point, I imagine, and I'm projecting, but I imagine early on, pretty broad in what kind of work you would do. At what point did you niche down? How did you think about that? And how would you advise someone else to think about how to position themselves and how to niche?
So I would say it took me about 7 to 8 months to really niche down. And so during that time, I was consuming a lot of like copywriting materials on like how to write copy and, how to do it well and things like this. And, I said yes to everything: blog posts, tutorials, long form sales pages, website content, Facebook ads. But then I chose email copy because I realized, one, it didn't take very long to write an email. At first, it took me 2-3 hours because I was so new to it. But eventually I was able to understand like certain formulas. I understand what made a good email, to the point where I was able to write one in 30 to 40 minutes, which is really great, because then in the future I was able to package it and ask for a lot of money, and then I earn $2,000 in a day because I can write 5 emails within 3 hours. Talking about statistics, email is one of those platforms in which you send an email out within a day, or even half a day, or even a few hours, depending on how manic you are looking at your stats. You can really get the results like almost immediately, which was super exciting for me, because I was like, oh, I sent the email out. It has like a 25% open rate, a 3% click rate, and so it got me excited. Instead of writing a website and waiting 6 months or something for the client to be 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever for the client to be like, hey, your copy converted really well. We finally got enough traffic to really test it out, and for me that was the biggest difference, because it hit that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of like instant gratification that I did a really good job, because I would write the email, they would craft it up, design it, and within a day they would be like, hey, your copy generated like $10,000 in a single email, like good for you. And so that's what I really that's why I chose that. And so anyone who's like looking to niche down, it's really about finding the medium and the industry that interests you. With me in e-commerce, I thought it was really cool that I was writing for different brands. So it was just really fun for me. And I was, one day I'm writing for a supplement company, and then the next one I'm writing for wearable blanket. And then the next client, it's dog food or something like that. And I thought that was really fun. I wasn't just I didn't have to write in anyone else's voice. I just had to write in the brand's voice. So there was a lot of leniency in doing that. So anyone who's like trying to niche down in an industry, with a certain type of copy medium, the style that you like, because they're all a little bit different. We can say copywriting, but copywriting itself it can be pretty broad, because there's so many different mediums that you can write in. So I have friends who they're like, oh, I absolutely hate writing email copy. It's too short, and I don't know how to be that punchy. I want to tell a whole story. They prefer writing $5,000 to $10,000, requires 5,000 to 10,000 words, even more. And I can't do that. My brain, I get nervous. I would just get too nervous. So if anyone's listening to this and you're like, how do I niche down? It's, choose an industry that you're really interested in, and then choose the medium that kind of fits your personality. I think, email, that's what did it to me, because I like implementing things fast, and I like seeing the results even faster. Yeah, that'd be my advice.
Love it. You're dropping some wisdom bombs over here. One of my big takeaways from hearing you talk about this, especially on the attracting client side, is that there is no magic formula. It's just, to your point, it's persistence and patience. And it really sounds like the way you think about it is just canvassing, like especially early on, is just aggressively putting it out there everywhere you can, and seeing what shows up. And then it's cool. It sounds like you have lived the getting over the hump of getting those initial clients and then building off of that. And even your anecdote of the first 2 to 3 months, you made $60, and it really took like 6 to 12 months to get rolling. I think that's valuable for anyone who's listening, who's thinking about not just copywriting freelancing, but I think freelancing in general, which is there is going to be a lag time. And I imagine that a lot of people who are interested in this type of work might give up before the 6 to 12 month mark, and they might say, oh, this isn't working. People don't want what I'm offering. I guess along those lines were there any moments where you had sort of doubt points where you're like, oh man, I don't know if this is going to work? And how did you rally yourself through that? Were there any things that you used to push through and to carry on?
Yeah, for sure. There were times when I was, I was still working part-time in the kindergarten, and I was, getting paid part-time there, which isn't much in Hungarian salary-wise. So, I'm there, I'm like buying like a 6-pack of eggs, and I'm like, I'm going to have to stretch this out for like a few days, I think, some eggs and like some bread or something. And I was like, I'm not cut out for this. But it's one of those things you kind of have to forgive yourself that, that you're going to be struggling for a little bit, and that it's okay, and that it's, people who do succeed, they're the ones who stayed. And, you're really only one client away from making it. The thing that really helped me was just owning it. I just because I was making $60 my first 2 months, it didn't mean I wasn't gonna say I was a copywriter on Instagram or make my bio like copywriter, or it didn't mean that I wasn't gonna post something on LinkedIn or something. And in the end, that's what happens. It's in time, if you're consistent, people will notice you. And that's what happened to me. I mean, my first retainer client that was paying me $2,000 a month is Karate Combat, which is like this full contact professional sports league, like professional, like full contact fight league. And they found me because the social media manager at that time, so the head of social is Hungarian. And he was actually a parent of one of the kids in the kindergarten who I didn't speak,
oh, wow.
I didn't speak to him. I didn't speak to this particular dad the entire year. For the entire 2 years, actually, that I was working with him. We might have just like waved at each other when he was picking up his kid, but he added me on Instagram because he was finally able to, because I wasn't working there anymore. Then he saw that I had copywriter in my bio. And he was like, oh, hey, we're looking for a copywriter. Are you still going to be in Hungary? Because we have an office here for this league. And that was my first big break. I got the interview and everything. And, that's when I kind of started traveling a little bit because they were having international events. For anyone who's like kind of in that phase where they're like, oh, I'm like, this is really hard, or I'm not getting any clients right now. Like, just realize that unless you came from like some big, massive agency, and, they allow you to use their work as, as your portfolio, then, we all struggle. We all deal with clients that don't pay as well. And we all end up overworking ourselves, but it's all part of the process. A lot of the copywriters who I've networked with years ago who were also struggling, they're massively successful now. They're pulling in 6 figures with their copy. They're all product owners. They all have programs now. But, I still remember when we were like, hey man, like, do you have any work that you can like over to me? So it's like I said, persistence and patience, and then like owning up to the fact that you're a freelancer and you're owning up to the work that you're doing, whether that's copywriting or, you're a coach or anything like that. You're gonna have to own up to it and show up every day. Eventually things will start rolling.
I love it. Well, I want to segue from that to ask you about your rules of success. This is something you mentioned on a previous call we had. I'd love if you could it's obviously related to being successful in freelancing, but in general, how do you think about success and your rules for success?
Yeah, I mean, I think the rules of success, I think it's one of those things that I kind of pin like the rules of success because I've seen what everyone's doing in other industries and in sports and business, and they all kind of incorporate the same elements to make it work and, to make it work, long lasting. And, a lot of that is just, as I said, persistence, networking and like constantly learning. With persistence, you're going to fall upon like really hard times and you're going to think you suck. And you're going to think that you're not cut out for it, but it's really the ones who keep at it, and are always, constantly learning and meeting new people and are being patient. The clients and the milestones you want to achieve, you're going to reach them. And, I think that's where patience kind of comes in. You need to be patient with yourself and kind of understand that you need to learn more, and that it's okay to have like off days and you're gonna burn out, but to keep showing up every day and being patient with the process is like, it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. But you don't have to be patient alone. As I mentioned before, all these copywriters I met a couple of years ago, they were like my network, and because of those guys, it was I was able to meet new people and get in touch and connect with clients and prospects who became clients because of them. But just with networking, it's like you start to get inspired with the people you're around, the stories that they have, and you don't feel so alone on the journey. That's really powerful. I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs or freelancers, especially digital nomads, we work alone. So having that network of people who kind of understands you and doesn't make you feel like a weirdo that you want to write emails and live in Greece for a month or two, that's really important to keeping the dream alive. Yeah, and the last one is just constant growth and learning. I think I've dealt with like times where I think I know how to write the best copy, or I'm the best at this or I'm the best at that, I think it's I don't need like a mindset coach, or I don't need to learn this, but it's those are the times I get really stifled. And kind of showing up every day and making sure that I learn something new, or I just remind myself by reading something, some important like business tip or some type of element that makes good copy, and reminding myself to add that in, crucial. And it's so helpful in making sure I'm on top of things, and just living better. And I think I've the beautiful thing about the Nomad newsletter was that I loved reading these things, and now before I had the newsletter, but now I'm more intentional with like the stuff that I write about. And if no one's like reading the newsletter, I and feature businesses and people that help nomads live better. And a lot of that's just showing, what nomad businesses are doing and what business owners are, what they're like, just to inspire people. And in doing so and doing my own research and finding businesses, finding people like you, Cam, it's really cool to see, the kind of growth that I've experienced just from learning what's out there. And man, it's amazing. So kind of always learning about new people and new concepts. It's the way to be.
Love it. There's a lot. You dropped a lot of great knowledge in there. I love the persistence and patience thing, which I'll come back to. It's something that I've kind of struggled with because there is a fine balance between pushing really hard and just giving enough time for things to play out, and sort of threading that balance is challenging at times, but I love that that's sort of like a key focus and almost a tagline for you. I want to touch on the newsletter. Tell us a little bit about your goals, your plans. Again, it's the nomadnewsletter.com. Highly recommend it, but give us a bit more about what you're hoping to do with it.
Yeah, so the Nomad newsletter kind of came out of it's a passion project of mine. So when I started out as a digital nomad, as a freelancer, online business owner, whatever, I was learning about all these people who were like teaching others how to make 6 to 7 figures online, and how to get 20 to 30 book calls a day and things like that. And I think that's fantastic. I think a lot of nomads do that as well. But for me, when I first started, I was like, I just want to make money. I want to make money and travel the world. Who can help me with that goal to make enough money and travel? Of course, my goals changed. Of course, I want to make more money. I want to monetize the newsletter. But the Nomad was created because I wanted to create a platform in which people can discover these businesses that help current or aspiring nomads live better, or to, kickstart that dream. Because there weren't too many, I think, back then. I think about digital nomad on YouTube. There was not that many out there. I think there were some OGs like Johnny FD and Kristen Wilson. Had some great content back then, and they still do. And so with the Nomad, it's all about showcasing these businesses that help nomads, live comfortably, whether that's co-working spaces, co-living spaces, businesses like yours, masterminds, retreats, coaches as well. So yeah, for that, it's really it's almost like a magazine for digital nomads, which is, my goal for it. And, with monetizing it, and what I want to do with the future is kind of expand on that. I've had a lot of really great feedback, and a lot of people are like, I want to do what you do. I want to write emails. I want to write copy. I want to be a freelancer at the very least. I think the next step in doing that is kind of creating a new level for the Nomad. And it's going to be more of a paid model where it's a paid subscription model where instead of just getting the 2 emails a week, which are typically sent on Monday and Friday, I'll send an extra 3 or 4 a week, in which I pretty much do freelance business coaching and sending out freelance business lessons. Definitely no fluff. Everything's going to be actionable, research based, and it's going to be packed with a lot of examples, from my experience, but then also from other successful freelancers who are traveling, or not just traveling, but who really turned their freelance career into a freedom business. I think at the end of the day, that's all that's what we all want is, we want to have an online business, but we also want to not be working 12 hours a day. And I'm lucky enough that, this call that I have with you is my big thing for the day. And after this, I'm totally done. And I know a lot of people out there.
Same here.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I lied. I have one call after this, but then I'm chilling.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just want to, with the Nomad, with the kind of the next level is I want to, give my knowledge to people who want to live this particular lifestyle of I want to be a freelancer and I want to travel the world. I don't care about, managing 10 to 12 people or having a big team, or, the aspirations aren't to make, $1 million. Maybe it will be, maybe it will be down the road or two. A lot of my friends start out like me, and then they have different goals. So yeah, with the Nomad, I'm hoping to really give as much value as I can, and help people get that first client and get that first 1K, and then hopefully get that $10,000 a month, or whatever that goal may be, while also traveling the world and having the freedom to really enjoy life. Yeah,
love it. I love it. So I love what you're doing with the newsletter. I want to transition into talking about Budapest, one of your favorite cities, where you're calling home now. For a digital nomad who's thinking about spending time in Budapest, what should they know? Give us the overview, the pros and cons, paint the picture for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I absolutely love Budapest. I've been there for 5.5 years. I consider it my home more than even the US. And it's one of those places that it's just magnificently beautiful. I mean, every corner you go down to, it's absolutely stunning. Everything from the architecture to the people, the excitement and the vibrancy of the city. It's really exciting, and I mean, yeah, of course it's not perfect. But it's one of those places that it's still kind of a hidden gem. I think I mentioned earlier in the interview that it's like slowly not, but it's still somewhat hidden. But it's an amazing place for freelancers, for digital nomads, online business owners who they want to be in that. They want that city vibe. I think the typical nomad idea is like you're on a beach somewhere, like in Bali or something. But if you're into,
that's my shtick. But
thing, man. But like my thing is like I'm a city guy. Being from Memphis and going to New Orleans and all that stuff. It's like I love like cities. So. And Budapest is a city, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's affordable. It's really fun, and if you're into a really awesome social scene, then, you can't go wrong with Budapest. It's a party city. I don't party that much anymore, but if you're into that, there's plenty of places to hang out and to party, plenty of clubs. And it's one of those cities that it thrives on tourism, and they want people to come and have a good time. So there are so many like co-working spaces now, and I say it like that because it wasn't even like that like 3 or 4 years ago. Now there's popping up everywhere. There's cafes made just for workers, and it's just so fun. The cons are probably that the language is incredibly difficult, so good luck trying to speak Hungarian.
How's your Hungarian?
Mine's actually pretty good. After 5 years, it's not after 5 years, it's not the worst. It actually used to be a lot better because I took lessons for a year. But my girlfriend and I speak English with each other, and she thinks it's fine that I speak Hungarian, but we just use English. But yeah, and it's a very walkable city. So I know nomads are like, how do I get around? If you're in the downtown area and places like that, then you're really only like 20-25 minute walk from everywhere. But yeah, it's just in a really amazing city for anyone who wants to kind of dive into a social scene. You meet people from all over. Yeah, and just have a good time.
Yeah, I spent a month and a half in Budapest like 3 years ago, and I lived right next to, oh man, what's that huge multi-story nightclub?
Fogash?
No, it's not that one. It's
Simpla?
Instant.
Oh, Instant. Yeah, Instant and Fogash are like, they combined. And yeah, that place is wild, man. I don't want to step foot in there anymore.
But I could definitely attest, yeah, Budapest nightlife is very much happening with people converging from all over Europe to have bachelor and bachelorette parties and party and meet people. And it's a very, very happening place. What would you say about the Wi-Fi in Budapest as far as like finding good and stable Wi-Fi there?
It's actually pretty good. We have like a big cafe culture, which, not just like the typical like fancy cafes, but there's a lot of these modern cafes. You have your Starbucks and your Costa Coffees and California Coffees, or a lot of independent ones that just somehow have really good Wi-Fi. I mean, if you walk around like the downtown, the Belváros, then you're going to fall upon a bunch of cafes and co-working spaces that have really good Wi-Fi. I mean, some of them have better Wi-Fi than like my own flat there. I mean, certainly a lot better than my mom's right now that I'm currently using. So it's really good. It's over the last few years, they've made it a lot easier for online business workers and like remote workers in general. So you're going to find stable Wi-Fi for sure.
That was definitely my experience as well. One of the big appeals is for sure cost of living. Give us a cost of living breakdown as far as what people should expect to pay, apartments, food, other things in the city?
Yeah. I think it really depends on the part of the city that you're choosing to be in. If you're in the downtown, it's different from a few kilometers out. But from my experience, I live in a very nice part of the city. And it's like a 1-bedroom, but with like a living room. The bedroom's like above. It's like 2 floors almost, but the second floor is just the bedroom that goes out to a terrace. So it's really nice, pretty decent size. And I think that's only about 850 euros. So my conversion's off.
1,000 US?
I think a little less.
US?
I think it's about 950 US. And it's really nice compared to, some people like, my sister lives in New York and she has a shoebox for like 1,400. Yeah. And, I get to walk to my cafe and she has to drive. So it's really not that bad. But like when I was working with the kindergarten, I had a super small studio apartment and that was only about $400, I believe. And then in my first year, I was living a little bit outside of the city center. It was also another studio apartment, and that was only about $250. This is all USD. I was able to do the math eventually, but yeah, it's super affordable. And like if you're by yourself, you're single, you can probably get by on like $20 a week on groceries, which is crazy. I went to Whole Foods over here and I paid like $12 for milk.
I mean, I just got back. I got back to the U.S. from Spanish Canary Islands, which those are pretty isolated islands. The grocery store prices have been like kind of shocking. It's shocking to be back. I've been here recently. I was here 4 months ago, but man, it's like, wow, I'm paying double right now.
Yeah, so it's very affordable. I think definitely Central Europe in general, not just Budapest, is a pretty affordable part of the world for remote workers.
And then weather and best months to visit. When are best and worst times to go?
Yeah, it's going to be an easy one. The best time to visit is in the spring and the summer, the late spring and the summer. In the summer, especially before COVID, Budapest was like a beast of a place. Just constant mayhem and parties and people, events everywhere, music festivals, outside drinking places, just events. It's amazing. Those events still take place in the wintertime, but it's just freezing cold, which isn't fun for anyone. It's still beautiful. During the wintertime, it's still cool here because we have like beautiful Christmas markets and decorations everywhere, and when it snows, it's gorgeous with all the Gothic architecture and all that. But it's bitter, hurts your face when you're just walking around. So if you're not into that, then just skip the winter and come in the summer. Fair enough.
And then how's the digital nomad community, and kind of how easy is it to meet other people?
Yeah, the community is growing. I wouldn't say it's like the biggest, but I think it's because it's known as like a kind of like a party town. And it's affordable that people like to go there to kind of reset, spend a few weeks there. You said you spent like a month and a half. There are a lot of events going on with like the International Meeting Point. A lot of hostels have daily, weekly events where they tell travelers to come and like hang out, and it makes it so easy. And of course, when you go to the downtown, especially to the hotspots and the party areas, if you just go up to someone and ask where they're from and things like this, everyone's super open. There's something about the vibe of the city that makes people really open to meeting others and having a good time. And if you go to like cafes as well and you see everyone on their laptops, everyone's like kind of digital nomading in their own way. So go up to anyone and be like, hey, what are you working on? Maybe we can just be friends or something. It's pretty easy to make friends in Budapest, I'd say. And
then best and worst neighborhoods to live in?
Oh yeah. Okay. So probably the worst.
What would you recommend, and what would you recommend avoiding?
I think avoiding, everyone says don't go into like the 7th and 8th district, which isn't like, but personally I say that's like those are the 2 best districts to live in, because it's affordable and there's a lot of cafes and restaurants and bars there and stuff. But I think there's one particular like street called Nepszínház utca, which is Nepszínház Street, that everyone is like terrified of. So that's the Blaha Luisa Ter neighborhood. That's like the street, like the square. Ter is like square. So that neighborhood, everyone says avoid at all costs. But the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th district is it's great. I love it all. I think those are the districts that everyone that I know typically lives in. That with the exception of the 13th district and some people on the Buda side. Some people stay on the Buda side as well, but that's a little more pricey. But Pest, the city split in Buda and Pest. Pest is where like 95% of the remote workers and digital nomads live.
Love it. Love it. Well, this has been a good overview. Any final things you want to add for someone who's thinking about going to Budapest?
Yeah, just hit me up. I'm happy to answer any questions. Join the Hungary Expats Facebook group. It's not my group. There's no affiliate with that, but they accept everyone. And if you ask a question, you're going to get a lot of good information. So, talking about research earlier, if you have any questions, just go there, place a question. You're going to get a good answer. So do that.
That's a great plug. I definitely recommend that for any city you're thinking about going to. There's normally digital nomad or expat group where people are super friendly. Well, I think that's a wrap. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate your time and all of your insights. Beyond going to the nomadnewsletter.com and subscribing, are there any other sites, social media things that you want to plug where people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning more about my work as a freelance copywriter, visit storiesandcopy.com. It sounds like just like that, storiesandcopy.com. And then you can also just find me on social media. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. There's only one Francis Nayan out there. So if you spell it right, then it's going to be me. It's either me or my dad, but he looks older. So don't add him. It's happened before. So just find me there and just reach out whenever.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate your time. This has been great. Thanks for being on here.